right, guys, you have made it. You have made it to the final session of the day. We have been rocking and rolling here at TCCA with abundance of learning opportunities that we have actually engaged from the digital aspect to SEL to just self-care for educators. We've heard some awesome speakers today and we still have one more round to go. So there is no getting off now. You might as well just stick with us, enjoy it, embrace it, and love it. Now, we're going to talk to you today from this awesome lady. Miss Janet here is an educator from Galena Park. She is going to share some things that actually help and motivate our EL students so that we can actually get that voice out of them. We want to increase the communication that they share with us. And we also have Miss Mercer here, who is all deans that
Woohoo.
person for that same program. She is our program director, so she's moderating with us today. So we have two of some great minds that are going to share with us how to really pull from our EL learners and actually get them to give us more, feed us more of their voice so that we can actually make sure that they're going to be successful in this country and wherever they choose to go in life. So with no ado, Miss Janet.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Look, I know how crazy everything has been today, and for actually this whole year. And I know our students have really struggled too. So we're going to just kind of jump right in to keep tabs on how much time we have. I've actually got my clock going over here. So if I look away, I'm just checking my time. Okay. So we're going to jump right in. I hope everybody has had a great day. And sorry about that. My computer decided to lag on me just a little bit. The whole goal for today is to give you access and some ideas for using tools to help your kiddos communicate better, especially your English language learners, because anybody that works with them can tell you that they need that little extra push on their communication. So if you want access to the presentation right now, I have a link in here, or you can scan the QR code if you want to use your phones for that. I'm cool either way. And there are some links in this, and I'll be taking you to the different things and showing you some of the stuff my kids have done in some cases, and just sharing some ideas about what you can do. All right, so I'm going to give you a minute. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to jump that far. Sorry. I always say technology is great until it's not, and I just hit the same button twice and didn't realize I'd done it. Okay, there we go. Got to it. Maybe. Okay, clearly I'm not being as tech savvy as normal. I do have a Twitter if you want to, and if somebody could share that link, that would be great.
And we also have, I'm seeing a kind of duplicate screen. So I think this is what's actually
Let me see if
feeding
I can
to
get that off.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, there you go. Is that better? Okay, sorry
There we
about that.
go.
I had
Awesome.
accidentally. Sometimes you click the wrong button, I think. Today was one of those days for me. All right, so if you guys, somebody can share that in the chat, that would be great. Or you can just use the QR code. I'm not going to lie, I don't follow my Twitter as closely as I used to. We've got some really unpleasant politics going on. And sometimes that gets a little old. All right, and Twitter's loaded with it. Okay, so our objective is going to be to learn about several different tech tools that can help our EL students improve their communication skills and engage a little bit more. And you're going to have the option of creating some accounts for those tools. I'm going to make sure that I try to talk about different ways these tools can be used in other content areas and not just English, because I've heard it a lot, and I'm sure that, you know, Ms. Mercer can agree with this. People say, well, that's an English thing, but really and truly, communication goes across the board and isn't just for the English teachers to cover. You do not have to do this QR code or the short poll here. because my phone is not letting me access it anyway right now. So that was what I was going to look on. But I hope everybody is doing great. All right. So the first thing I'm going to start with is Padlet. And Padlet is a great collaboration tool. And hopefully you've already got this. At one point, Padlet would only let the kids type a response, and that was all they could do. But it was a good way for people to type down what they were thinking, work together on things, and share ideas both in real time and, at a later time as well. Sorry about, okay, there you go. Sorry, my dog is being a little demanding right now. So I'm going to just take you to my Padlet very quickly. If you don't have Padlet, it's really for it. I always just use my school account when I'm setting these things up. My district is a Google school or a Google district. Hang on. No, you got to go that way, dog. Sorry, that's the only problem with working from home is my dog thinks, and he kind of does. No. Oh, there you go. Lay down. Lay down. All right. Sorry about that. It doesn't matter. Lay down. All right. There. Wow. I am so sorry. My internet is apparently slowing down by the second, even though it's directly connected. You don't get your own way. Okay. All right. I must have forgotten to log out. But when you're doing this, then I actually can only set up 3 on this account because this is with my school email, and I set it up after Padlet switched to where you could only get 3 free ones, and I haven't chosen to pay for it again. So this is what I did on revision. None of the kids wanted to speak on it, even though they had the option. So sorry, this is being so slow.
Miss Janet, would you like to actually try to select a tab instead of showing us your whole screen, because you can still switch between the tabs, but that way you can actually, maybe that'll have a better pull,
So
less
while
pull
it's
on
still
your
coming
internet.
up, you notice I always title them with exactly what they're focused on. And the description is always what I want them to tell me. And some kids have finished their essays, so they've already done this and done their revision and editing. I've got some that are doing it this weekend, so hopefully they'll get those turned in soon. But I asked them to put their names on there. I don't let the kids respond to them immediately. I make sure I go through and read them first, and then I give them feedback. These were all literally just done last night and today, so I haven't given any feedback yet. I haven't graded them. But as you can see, some kids give really good answers. Lisette is actually a higher English language learner. Nellie is a beginner. But you can see it gives them lots of options to talk. Some of my kids are lots of options to share ideas. So I'm just going to go back in here. And I don't know why I named this, but I did. So, but in this one, all right. Don't we love it when technology doesn't do what we want? you notice the first thing is the students you just type check on what they do or don't know. You can have them record an audio. This is the one I did earlier today. But to all they had to post, they can just type something here, or they can click on these three dots. They can upload something they already have from their computer if they've already made a recording, or they can come down and do a voice recording, which is really useful for them, especially whenever they're talking about math or science, because then they click on that, they click on this record button. It does have up to 15 minutes, and we can replay it and save it and all those other nice useful things. But for my math teachers, please, please, please don't be afraid to use this. Sorry, he's making himself known. You can have the kids explain how an equation works, how to solve it, what the formulas would be. If you're a science teacher, you can have them explain how to balance an equation or talk about evolution. If you're history, they can talk about the things or the events that led up to a certain date or caused something to happen. So you have lots of options with this. And when they just stop it, they click playback and save. If they don't like what they did, they can always discard it. And when your internet works well, okay, so I noted, I don't know why my Padlet is so slow. If you like it, you just say, wow. Anything they speak will look like this. Everything they type is like this, because apparently it's just not going to work for me on Padlet today. I'm not sure why Padlet was so slow, but I'm just going to keep that in mind.
Miss Janet?
But because our kids struggle, our language learners struggle so much with the speaking part of their tests, having them speak is super important. Can you hear me okay?
There's a lot of the picture is very distorted. So
okay.
Some of our viewers are actually saying it's kind of fuzzy for them to see.
Yeah, my internet is being super slow. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Okay, it just came in
clearly. Yep.
All right, cool. So I don't want to go back and spend too much time on Padlet. Because Padlet is one of those things you really can use. I don't want to say it's intuitive, but it's very easy. But it is a good tool for helping our kids that are struggling with their speaking, because they have to go into detail to explain those things. So that's why I like it. And something that we'll talk about more probably is how much our kids that are learning the English language struggle with their speaking for a lot of different reasons. So it's a good way to encourage them to use detail. And especially since the test that we have to give in Texas is all online, giving them ways to practice speaking to a computer is important. Flipgrid is another one of those tools. It lets them practice not just speaking, but speaking to a computer. They can also do like role plays and interviews and things like that. Now, both Padlet and Flipgrid are really easy to share to Google Classroom, because you can just get links that from Padlet or Flipgrid that you can attach into Google Classroom or Canvas. or is Schoology the one that they're using in Aldine right now? I think that's the right one. It may be Blackboard, but with Flipgrid, it's my favorite because it is completely free. Okay, I'm going to wait and see if this comes up, and I'm just going to go back to my present loads. It is completely, it's a little more confidence because they don't have to show their face in Flipgrid, just like they don't have to in Padlet. I encourage them to speak more or to build them up so that they're able to start learning how to add in those details. And okay, I don't think Flip. All right. Well, as I said before, technology is. I think this is going to work. We're going to see. Surprised out when Padlet didn't. Is it still really fuzzy for them when I switch to different things, or?
Yes, it is. And it's actually taking
Or
a
Mr.
lag
Curiel
there.
was going through.
So like right now, we're not seeing anything on the actual presentation screen.
Right. I'm going to some of these. I
Let's
hope.
see.
Um,
Go ahead.
but you can have, again, in Flipgrid, their vocabulary. Yeah, no, I think oh, now it's going to work, maybe. Okay. So I'm going to try this one more time.
Okay.
I'm a little scared with some of the problems we've had. I'm just going to try this one more time. Okay, so this is a different kid that gave me permission. And again, I haven't listened to these for a while, so I just hope you can hear her.
Confederate arrest protests at Solidarity Soldier
We're good.
Monument,
Okay.
anti-racist disorderly conduct property as is off.
And I'm going to pause that. Again, this is one of those, it's really easy to set up. It gives you a whole lot of flexibility. You can give feedback on it along with other things. So it just takes time to do this. I'm a little nervous about what it's going to do if I try to show you too much right now, because we've been having some real problems with it. I blame my internet provider. It's really easy to set up a topic, because again, it's one of those that just basically shows you what to do while you're doing it. If it says, you can create groups, it lets you add, you can make them active. The one you picked on last is going to be at the top. That's the only thing you got to watch for. But you can add lots of different things to them. Use some of the same ones from the previous year. So if I wanted to have my kids read that list of cognates again this year, I could just give them the list and reactivate that same topic, and they would let me do it over again. So but it does give me the ability to keep them from keep other from using it unless I want them to. That was slowing down, so I'm just going to accept that fact and kind of try to move forward with it. Did anybody have any questions other than some of the weird technology stuff we had?
No, we haven't had any questions thus far. It was just actually, I guess the little glitches that we were having, but
A
we
great
are following along
speaking
with you.
tool
Yes.
for us and for them, actually, because this one is good for us to use. And you may have seen this in some of your other sessions, Screencastify and Loom. Both teachers and students can use it. The students can practice it, use it as practice for speaking, for giving presentations, and then easily attach those to their assignments in Google Classroom. And for teachers, Screencastify is really great because while it's only got a 5-minute limit for free, I can make as many recordings as I want. So I can do mini lessons on something that my students are struggling with. And again, this one doesn't matter. It can be math, science, history, English, a foreign language, any of your electives. You can give them a short 5-minute or less mini lesson on what you're doing, and they can listen to it as many times as they want. Loom is the same, except that it is completely free, and you don't have the time limits that you do on Screencastify. So like I've done professional developments, recording things, and 10, 15 minutes on Loom, and it's still okay, and I can share it with Google Classroom, or I know somebody said they shared theirs on Schoolology, and I think the other one they said was Canva. So they're pretty easy to use. Now, InsertLearning is, okay, yeah, definitely slow internet. InsertLearning is good for chunking reading. You can build in vocabulary and the comprehension checks with that by adding in questions, sticky notes. You can put videos on the sticky notes, and they can even put videos on sticky notes. Now, it'll grade things for you, which I like if it's multiple choice, but because you can also have open-ended short answer questions, you're going to have to go grade those. But the first 5 lessons are free, but unlimited lessons are only $40 a year. It is a Google Chrome extension, and I was going to show that to you, but my internet is just acting all kinds of crazy. So I'm afraid if I try to get out of this again, it's going to completely freeze on me. But you'll have a dashboard that you can go to, check their grades, download their grades even as Excel spreadsheets. And if you only want them to read one paragraph and tell you the main idea of that paragraph, you can do that. If you want to say one of the themes of the story, is about coming of age, you can ask them which lines did that, and then give them multiple choice answers to use that with. All right, another one, and again, I'm fond of this one. I use it for my kids to practice their writing and grammar. It is free for the most part, but there's a paid option as well that gives you access to a few more lessons in this. It can also be used for some writing assignments and peer editing for the kids, but most of the walkthroughs are for like argumentative or persuasive opinion type writing. And I don't find that to be as useful when my goal is to get them to add detail that's, factual versus opinion. And sadly, also my language learners really struggle whenever they see argumentative, and I'm trying to get them to give me facts and details. So I don't use it for their writing assignments or for peer editing, but it is something you can use for that. I do use it sometimes for quick writes, where I want them to give me their opinion about something very quickly. It does have several different types of assignments you can give. including diagnostic quizzes, then like growth quizzes. It also lets them practice different skills like subject-verb agreement, adjectives. You can do nouns, proper nouns, capitalization. You can use it for commas. They have a lot of different tools in there that you can use. This one I'm going to be a little brave on because it is not a Google extension, and I'm going to see if it'll behave, and if not, I'll just keep moving on. If you've used No Red Ink, but you haven't used it for ELs, feel free to go ahead and put a question or two in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer while we wait and see what happens. So I feel like I'm gambling a little bit today. I think it's working better than the other one was anyway. So No Red Ink will grade the assignments for you. And okay, I may have to say no, it's not going to. You know, not willing to share everything.
Right, not sure what's going on, but it's okay because we know that No Red Ink is a great tool for our students as well as some of the other ones that you have shown us.
It
I
being
will
like that.
bring.
But grammar, I'm going to focus on. And then I give them a growth quiz after 3 or 4 weeks just to see what they're doing. So it gives me those grades. And talks, I'm really fond of TED Talks because skills. They can practice listening as well as reading because they have closed captioning and transcripts in multiple language on the TED Talks. And I can also use the TED Talks to check comprehension because I can put it into Edpuzzle and insert comprehension questions on it. There's a lot of different topics. It is completely free. It's a great way to give them some background info from experts or just to help them maybe get a different point of view on some things. So I really like using it for multiple things. And I encourage my science teachers and my history teachers, and I think they've even got some stuff for math in there, but it's more like upper level math, to look through it because it's a great way for the kids to practice and check and have some understanding and background knowledge on things. Okay. Immersive Reader. All right. So this is really great for my science teachers and my history teachers where the kids have to read a lot, but they're still learning their vocabulary. It is a Google extension and it is free, But if you've got a cool textbook that'll read to the kids, you don't need this so much. Or if you have Kurzweil 3000, then this is just another tool you can use instead of Kurzweil for like the things that are online. Kurzweil, I think you have to load everything into it. It does let them chunk the reading, either like sentence by sentence or even whole paragraphs for the kids that are struggling. So I like it for that. All right, so Jamboard, I discovered Jamboard this summer. So I'm still learning about it, but I have already found out that it is a great way to encourage the kids to collaborate and to work with each other. It is a G Suite program, so it is Google-based, but it lets them do their group work and come up with ideas for things together so that they can help build up each other's vocabulary. They can practice things like building sentences. You can have, however many words you want on there in different text boxes and let the kids build their own sentences around those words and make up as many of them as they want. And it is easy to share in Google Classroom. And Google Meets even has a way that you can go to a Jamboard as part of their activities now, something I had actually forgotten about until just recently. So it's pretty useful. My kids have been pretty creative with it. I also use it as like a comprehension check. So like I'll put all the things that we talked about and then like the categories I want it to go into. And then the kids move it and do it in groups, like of 2 or 3. And I did that with revision and editing, and they had fun with that. So they actually came up with what fell under each category for that one. Google Meets, a lot of us are using this for our virtual students. So you can access it from Google Classroom. It is pretty easy. It's getting better, I think, all the time. It does have some limitations. They now have breakout rooms. They have closed captioning options. And the closed captioning has a translator option. The problem with the closed captioning and the translator is that if you are trying to record your Google Meet chat, then it sometimes freezes or just won't record at all whenever you're using that. It works about half the time, but I've had to turn off closed captioning to guarantee it's going to record. Sometimes I take the chance, sometimes I don't. Depends on how important it is. Google Slides and PowerPoint are great for a lot of things because it does help the kids to get a little more organized. And there's a whole lot of templates that we can use that make it easier for us, that are easily personalized by the kids. So once we give them that and they make their copy, it doesn't take a lot for us to keep up with it. And mine use it right now for a digital dictionary. Other people have, Google Slides is also being used for some presentations they're doing. But they have a digital dictionary, and there's a link on here to the one that I'm using. And my shout out goes to the Galena Park ISD ESL department, Tracy Schmidt, because she is largely responsible for that one being as awesome as it is. I don't want to pretend like I did it. She did most of it, and I just did a little bit. But the kids then have access to their own personalized dictionary. And if they can remember a word better with a picture, they can use a picture for that word. And if they're advanced enough that they can just write the definition or an example in that box, then they can do that as well. Okay. And the last thing that I'm going to go over, and this has been a lot shorter because the internet problems, is student websites. We use Google Sites. The kids can access it from anywhere. Some people I know use Wix, but it's another tool to help the kids organize what they've got. They can share their presentations. They can share projects, essays, graphic organizers, and all of those things can be put on their websites. The websites can have as many pages as you want. They can use them for virtual notebooks or just student portfolios. And I'm so sorry that my internet was acting up. Does anybody have any questions so far?
We have not had any other questions that have been
Okay.
posted into the chat room.
All right, that's a good thing, I guess. So Bitmoji, this one is not about their comprehension or their language development or reading or speaking. This is about that connection. Because like my in-person students really like having my Bitmoji because I do have to wear a mask around them all the time. It's just personal. It does help us with connections, which is so important whenever you're working with special pops kids. So they think it's fun. They like some of the funny things that the Bitmojis say. The one warning I have for Bitmojis is that sometimes they're not exactly school appropriate. So I don't encourage my kids to necessarily have a Bitmoji, but I have one. I'm just very careful which ones I use. But if I'm honest, most of them have Instagram, so they probably have Bitmoji anyway. But so if this one's just about connections, because they like to see somebody smiling or, you know, thinking or something like that. And when we have masks on, they can't see all of our face. So there is that. All right. So if nobody has any questions or comments, and I really feel like we rushed, but hey, maybe you guys can get out of here early thanks to my tech problems.
No questions at this time.
Awesome. So one of the things that I did want to say, because it was brought up in the last session, is somebody asked why the kids have so much trouble with their speaking. And I want Miss Mercer to definitely throw in her 2 cents worth too, because she's been doing this for a while. And way longer than me, actually, probably, if I'm honest. But one of the things that I found is our kids, especially at the secondary level, they're nervous and embarrassed about having to talk because they aren't native language speakers. And if they had to show their face while they're talking, it's even worse. But the other thing is that for the tests that we give, they have to talk into a computer, and that's hard to do. I mean, we're doing it right now, and I'm kind of a little irritated right now because my internet was acting up so badly. But, you know, we have to give these kids all the supports and the scaffolding that we can to help them learn to add those details in and to get more comfortable talking to those computers. And Ms. Mercer, I think, actually said she helped work on some of the guidelines for that.
Yes, actually, I got to work with TA on field questions for listening and speaking, and most of the questions that we checked were the higher ELPs. So the ELPs are set up where they're for, you know, lower like pronunciation of sounds, and then they get harder and harder and harder to like summarization or analyzing. So your speaking has to be more elaborate. And so we need to give our students opportunity to speak and to practice recording. And all these programs are great for with the recording piece, because we should actually give them content specific topics to record and then to use that academic vocabulary. And some of them were even compare and contrast. So they were very difficult prompts. So we need to utilize that in the classroom as we're teaching as well.
And the other thing too is so many people want to think that them gaining the language skills should fall only under ESL teachers or English. And the bottom line is they need those skills for way more than just our class. So giving them the opportunity to explain a math problem, if they're really good at math, is important, because that's where they're going to get their confidence.
Yes. And then providing those scaffolds as well. Even though we might be virtual or blended, we still need to provide scaffolds like using visuals or those sentence stems to help get, so they can gain more confidence. So if they're an intermediate student, a sentence stem would be great, you know, that you can maybe provide in the Flipgrid, and then when they record, they can use it, but then it's halfway done for them. So then their confidence is boosted as well as they're recording and practicing, you know, speaking.
Exactly. And like I said, that's just something that a lot of people forget. It's not just the job of one teacher in the school or two teachers. You know, all of the teachers really. The more of you the more teachers that buy in, the more content we have from them, I think the better off the kids are, and the more confident they become. So
yes, I agree.
All right. So if there's really no other questions, guys, I mean, we're done, and I'm okay if everybody takes off and goes and enjoys the rest of their beautiful weekend.
So guys, remember that super secret code that you needed for this session is success. So what we want you to do is go forth and be very successful with all of the tools that you have used this weekend, making sure that you are empowering our learners. Remember, everything that we've shown you here today, you had it in you already. It's just some of the things that you've forgotten about because you have so much going on. COVID has brought you into a whirlwind of stuff, and you got to pull it all back out. One thing I will say from one of my presenters today is remember, make your top 5. Don't try to do it all. Choose 5 and make those your go-to tools. Flipgrid is definitely one of mine because I can always get my students to speak back to me. They don't always have the ability to type, but they can talk. Now, they may not want to talk, but if you tell them that it's just them and you're not sharing it with the class, so they don't have to worry about everybody, critiquing what they're saying. This is you talking to me. And then with the Flipgrid now, you can give them instant feedback. You can have those video chats with just them and getting that feedback from them. So there's so many things that you can do with that. Yes, ma'am.
If you even want to take it a step further, use those PLDs while you're listening to the recordings. If you're using the PLDs, which PLDs are proficiency level descriptors. I forget that we're like national and worldwide, and we have people from all over the world here today. Or use a rubric that has the speaking for our language learners if you're not here in Texas. But any rubric that will help you to guide them to get to the next step and to build that language. This student is been here a few years, and he's having problems with idioms or figurative language. So I want to work on that. So let's do a video showcase on Flipgrid on idioms, and then they can explain the literal, what it is, like raining cats and dogs, and then what it really means as an idiom. So that just helps that language as well.
And think about with that said, also with the idioms, think about how powerful this piece can be for your middle school, high school students that are actually having to do things like getting ready for the SAT prep. You can actually start them to speak about those things, because when they start using the terminology and they can tell you what it is, when they see it on paper, it actually just resonates with them.
It does, and I think it's great to have them verbalize what they're seeing on paper. Because those kids right out of NAC, think about how good they feel when they record what they've read and they hear it and it sounds good to them. And you can tell them, how great they did on something. I'm sorry. NAC is New Arrival Center. I'm sorry.
But too,
education acronyms.
I remember videotaping a reader's theater with my third graders, and they were like, "Teacher, I don't sound like that." And I said, "Yes, you do." He's like, "Why do I sound like a robot?" Because he was reading and, and his fluency wasn't very, And I said, "Well, you need to practice on your fluency and when you're reading to sound natural." And he's like, "Okay." And I promise that seeing himself read, really gave him own self a goal. And he wanted to become better at reading and sounding natural. So he worked on that and he improved. And it was really neat to see that.
Right. And like I said, it helps us to build up those connections with them too, when we can give them that kind of feedback.
And the thing is, I love working with my actual program directors and things, because a lot of what you all are doing, I'm doing with the special education population as well, because all of these tools are needed for all of our students. It's not just one particular population that this
Right.
is benefiting. This is actually benefiting them all. So imagine you have a struggling reader, hearing them read is actually something that's going to help them. So I always tell my kids, okay, if you don't have a little brother or sister to read to, do you have a pet? Do you have a favorite bear? Record yourself reading that story to your bear. And then guess what? Now,
Yeah.
after a while, you don't have to read it to them anymore. You press the button and walk away. So,
The other thing you said for all the kids, this is a great differentiation tool. All of these are, because I can expect something better from my GT pre-AP, AP kids than what I would expect from my SPED kiddos.
right.
But I can do that without having to make a big deal about it.
Hmm.
It can be the same questions, but I'm going to use a different rubric to grade those pre-AP kids versus my SPED kids or my Gen Ed kids. So
And the funny thing about that, with the differentiation of everything, you're giving them the opportunity to grow and show you what they can do. Because we have some of those 2E learners that we don't realize they have exceptionalities in certain areas, but because we're always giving them the accommodations, we've never given them the opportunity to excel and show us,
mhm.
oh, hold up, you have a gift on this side. So I need to start pulling that more out of you to actually build up on your weaker strengths. So
Mhm.
it's not that they can't do it. We just haven't exposed them to the tools to help them
Right.
be able to do it.
Exactly.
So this has been an awesome session still with the discussions that you all have been able to, just bring out. And I thank our audience for sticking with us through the
Oh,
end
yes.
of the day. This has been a great day of learning, guys. I mean, I have been blown away with our presenters, and even the ones I haven't got a chance to, I'm going to be on YouTube later tonight. And I put that in the chat so that we can actually get back and watch some of these previous sessions. I'm going back to watch the keynote again because that was just so
Oh, that
powerful.
was awesome.
That was powerful. So I thank you all again for joining us on a Saturday, because you didn't have to do it. And we can say that we are blessed that you were here with us today to just share in all of the learning and instructional material that has been shared. Miss Janet, this was still great, and I appreciate the
I
fact that you all were able to shed some light on, things that we can actually do, not just because we do EL for the littles, but we kind of forget we still get new arrivals that are middle and high school.
Mhm.
And
yeah, yeah, we do. And what I'm sorry I couldn't show you some of the cool stuff that my kids have done, but
but
we
we
take
know
it and move on.
they have your
Yeah,
your email address, and
we do.
possibly some ways to get in contact with you. So you might have some people starting to follow you on Twitter, so you might have to check that out, because
Oh
we'll be
man, oh
reaching
no.
out.
I may have to go in and block some of those ugly, not nice tweets that I see coming through. Um, for no political stuff,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the new, yeah, like the retweets of news stations. I'm just like, okay, can we stop?
So, ladies, it has been a
It
blessing working with you today. It has been my pleasure to be your host, and we hope that we can actually do this all again, and maybe more often.
absolutely. I would be okay with that. And you have been a great, great, great host. I appreciate everything you've done to help me out today. And tell them you deserve a pay raise.
All right, I will definitely tell them that. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I will
I have
definitely.
no authority for that, but it sounds good.
Hey, you never know what you can get unless you ask. My father
Mhm.
True
has
that.
always taught me, if you don't ask, you didn't want it anyway. So
There you
I'm
go.
always an asker. I will ask. I will let them know. I'll voice that opinion. But
Okay.
again, you know, it has been our time, and we thank everyone for joining us. You all have a wonderful rest of the day.
Bye,
Reflect,
guys.
reteach, and continue to learn.